isn't, but we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator.
When Trump promised to deport 11 million people, the math pushed back. I mean, how could you do such a thing and not violate dozens of federal laws and the Constitution? I mean, you'd have to deport 3,000 people a day for over 30 years to get to that number. Well, apparently the answer is we don't care about the law or the Constitution. And these two psychopaths have little stiffies as they contemplate the pain and suffering.
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
Now we're hearing this.
He was deflecting attention from the millions who would lose Medicaid funding, something like 17 million, to go to what he's calling Alligator Alcatraz in the Florida Everglades. Talk about the significance of this and this proposed massive increase to the ICE budget.
If we look at the reconciliation bill, we can see that the amount of funding that ICE would get under this bill would be transformative for the agency. We're talking nearly 20 years worth of detention funding to be spent only in a 4-year period, and an increase to ICE's enforcement budget beyond anything we've ever seen before, allowing the agency to expand mass deportations over the next 4 years to every community nationwide. We are talking about a significant increase beyond every other federal law enforcement agency. If this money goes through, if the House votes for this bill, you will see ICE now being the single largest federal law enforcement agency in the history of the nation.
We're learning that Trump has set daily immigration arrest quotas, where federal agents and deputized local law enforcement are racially profiling and snatching people off the streets without due process. Now, real quick about due process. Everyone gets due process. The Constitution says persons, not just citizens, cannot be dragged off the street without a legitimate legal reason or suspicion. That's probable cause. These arrests are being carried out by armed and masked agents, and ICE regularly denies it is taking people into custody, leaving family members scrambling for information about their loved ones. It's arrest now, ask questions later. And now Trump wants to cage suspected undocumented people randomly pulled off the streets into cages in the Everglades, calling it Alligator Alcatraz.
Alligator Alcatraz is nestled deep in the Everglades. It's surrounded by thousands of feet of barbed wire. The facility can accommodate as many as 3,000 illegals. Nice bunk beds. Now, contrary to liberal complaints, there are medical facilities and other equipment there as well. And the first group of new residents is expected to arrive tomorrow.
The Alligator Alcatraz, the idea that it's dumb that you're integrated. It's deep. They just get eaten by an alligator or a snake.
I guess that's the concept. This is not a nice business. I guess that's the concept. If the snakes are fast, but alligators are, but we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison, how to run away. Don't run in a straight line. Run like this. And you know what? Your chances go up about 1%, okay? Not a good thing.
Here to discuss this is Stephen Miller, White House Chief of Staff for Policy. Stephen, good to see you tonight. Now, why is the facility needed? Americans watching this, and I love it, but why is it needed? And will you ask other states to follow suit?
We want every governor of a red state, and if you're watching tonight, pick up the phone, call DHS, work with us to build facilities in your state so that we can get the illegals out, we can get the criminals out. And also, very importantly, Laura, we need Congress to pass the big, beautiful bill which contains the funding that ICE desperately needs to carry out the mass deportation agenda.
Now, we reach out to other states, Stephen, and a lot of them are open to helping. Alaska told us that we don't have alligators, but we have lots of bears. However, they aren't aware of any plans for an Alaska version of bear. I said bear Alcatraz.
Now, I don't know how many times while you were watching that you said, go f*** yourself, but hang on, we have more. There's new video showing a garden variety South Florida summer rainstorm. Flooding tents and drowning out DeSantis as he touted the Alligator Alcatraz detention facility he claims is ready to house deportees. DeSantis said that the facility could handle a Cat 2 hurricane, but as you can see, it can barely deal with a typical Florida thunderstorm. In fact, you can't even hear DeSantis speak over the storm. This next guy is out pimping for man titties. He's Trump's former head of Homeland Security who is defending the facility.
Alligator Alcatraz facility has bunk beds inside chain link fences. We're showing the video right now. It is surrounded by a swamp that contains snakes and alligators. Are there any concerns that you have about how humane this treatment is?
No, I don't have those concerns.
I don't know if you remember this next video when this fuck edited the Statue of Liberty's promise to immigrants.
Would you also agree that Emma Lazarus's words etched on the Statue of Liberty, "Give me your tired, your poor," are also part of the American ethos?
They certainly are. Give me your tired and your poor who can stand on their own 2 feet and who will not become a public charge.
So what you have here are people who have not been charged, who in many cases were doing nothing but being Hispanic and walking on the streets, and now they face the prospect of being eaten alive by an alligator, or more probably dying in a flood from the dozen or so hurricanes that batter Florida every year. But here's the crux of this. These arrests are random and have no legal basis. I have more coming up in just a second, but if you've been hearing about Medicare and maybe you're near that age, well, I just went through Medicare enrollment on my own, and it was not easy. And that's an understatement. It was incredibly difficult because the Medicare supplemental industry is a nightmare. Fortunately, though, I learned about Chapter. After a quick 30-minute call with them, my wife and I are going to save between $50,000 and $80,000 over the course of our lives. Yeah. Don't you think that's worth a call? Chapter is the only national Medicare advisor that compares every available plan. And when you call, you're going to talk to an honest and unbiased advisor who's going to walk you through everything step by step. And there's no pressure to sign up. And if you're already on the right plan, they're going to tell you. Call Chapter right now. Mention Chip Franklin when you call the number on the screen. They won't hang up. 816-953-0071. That's 816-953-0071. Okay, what ICE is doing is so horrible, it's actually hard to fathom. So listen to this first-person nightmare.
Go now to Los Angeles, where armed, mass federal agents have spent the last month carrying out arrests across the city. Families, immigrant advocates say they're struggling to find their loved ones when they are disappeared. In one case, the family of a community activist and mother, Juliana, they call her Yuli Pelez Calderon, said she was taken at gunpoint on June 25th by 2 men in unmarked cars who pulled over as she went to work at night, which is uncommon. She used a borrowed phone to call her family to say she was taken to a warehouse where women are held alongside men. She compared the men who took her to bounty hunters and has not had proper food or access to her medication.
The Cato Institute, not exactly a bastion of liberalism, is providing new non-public data from ICE, indicating that the government is primarily detaining individuals with no criminal convictions of any kind. Also, those who have criminal convictions, they are overwhelmingly not the violent offenses that ICE continuously uses to justify its deportation agenda. As of June 14th, ICE has booked into detention 214,297 individuals. Of those booked, 65%, or 133,687 individuals, had no criminal convictions whatsoever. Moreover, more than 93% of ICE bookends were never convicted of any violent offense. About 9 in 10 had no convictions for violent or property offenses. And as you heard, under Trump's budget bill, other than the Defense Department, ICE will become the largest and well-funded agency in our nation's history. And they're attacking the nation's economic backbone as well. These men and women provide more than 1.5% of our GDP, meaning that rounding them up and continuing with these tariffs could send the world into a depression. And while Trump says this,
our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have. And I think we can't do that to our farmers. And leisure, too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
ICE continues to raid restaurants, hotels, and farms. But the most obscene part to this story is how ICE is conducting these raids. They're literally donning masks and grabbing people off the street with no ID or legal basis. America is in crisis, but it's not just an economic crisis. We are rapidly trading our position as the protector of democracy and liberty in the world to a nation of weak little cuckolds, bowing before a pustulant skin tag who honestly needs a little bit of what he's dishing out.
You've got to say, I'm a human being, God damn it!
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Goddamn right.
You have no shame?
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy. I'm Chip Franklin.